All right, welcome back. Welcome back. This is part two of factor by grouping in part 13 of a series of finding zeros of functions using different types of factoring. And factor by grouping follows the greatest common factor. I did three examples of a greatest common factor. This is a continuation of my first example of factor by grouping. And so in this part two, in review, we had x plus 2 and x plus 2 inside the parentheses, and a plus -4 and an x squared outside the parentheses. So when you get to this point, all right, you're going to want to regroup because factor by grouping is what it's called. You're going to take what you factored out of those two terms earlier and you're going to put them together in parentheses. So step 3, place or group the outside terms into parentheses and then place the inside terms into another parenthesis, just like you would FOIL, having the parentheses right next to each other. So x squared plus a -4 goes in one side of the parentheses. Then x plus 2, that's already inside the parentheses, goes into the second parenthesis, right? You have the same exact terms inside the parentheses. You're going to put both of those into one parenthesis. Let's take a look, see what that looks like. We have x squared, right? X squared plus a -4 inside one set of parentheses, and x plus 2 goes in another set of parentheses. All right, I hope that didn't confuse you. That's just kind of how it goes. Factor by grouping, right? Factor by grouping. Now, one thing you need to understand is that the x squared plus a -4, I'm going to show you here, right? We can continue to factor this term, right? Because x squared plus a -4, this type, where you have an x squared, the x in the middle is missing, but then you have that last term, that -4 here, right? This is called the difference of squares, okay? So that x plus 2 inside parentheses stays with our answer. We're going to take this x squared plus a -4 and factor it again because it's a difference of squares, right? What two numbers would multiply to a -4 and yet add up to 0? And we know x squared is x times x, right? So this will be broken up into two parentheses, and then this just remains the same. Again, factor by grouping. So I know that a +2 times a -2 would give me a -4, but when you add +2 plus a -2, you get 0, right? So again, this is called difference of squares. You can look these up and practice them. And we just bring that x plus 2 down attached to these terms. Now you're going to check your answer. You're going to multiply all of these together in checking your answer. For example, you would use the type of FOIL. You'd multiply the x times the x times the -2, +2 times x, +2 times a -x, combine like terms. Then you would take this outside term x and multiply it with each of the other terms, or vice versa. Take each one of those terms and distribute times the x. Take each one of those terms, distribute with the 2, and then you would combine all like terms. And if you did that correctly, you would end up with the same expression we started with. X cubed plus 2x squared minus 4x minus 8. That's how you would go, and you would check your answer. But hey, I would like to show you how to go through factor by grouping without using the expanded form. I think expanded form is good, but you get to this point where you really would like to learn how to kind of do this mathematically as you get a little bit quicker with your multiplication and division skills. So let's just jump right into that. Let's factor by grouping. I'm not going to use the expanded form. I'm just going to get started. So again, I want to group these terms, and I want to separate them with a plus sign, right? I want to separate them with a plus sign. So that negative 4x minus 8 is on the inside, x cubed plus 2x squared is on the inside, separated with a plus sign. Now, I'm going to factor out. What can I factor out of these terms? I can factor a negative 4 out of both of those terms, right? So that's what I'm going to show you here. Hey, I can factor out at least x squared from both of these terms, right? Again, still separated with that plus sign. And remember, whatever I'm factoring will end up on the outside of each of the parentheses. So that x squared will end up out here. That negative 4 will end up out here. And when the remainder values, they stay on the inside. Let's take a look, see what that looks like. And so, as you can see here, negative 8 divided by a negative 4 is a positive 2. Negative 4 divided by a negative 4 is a 1x. And these terms here go on the outside, that negative 4 here. Remember, the plus sign is here, so I'm going to include that plus sign right here. And x squared divided by x squared leaves me 2 times 1, which is just that positive 2. And x cubed divided by x squared, 3 minus 2 is 1. That leaves me 1x plus 2 on the inside. All right, and whatever I factor, the x squared goes on the outside. Okay, because these two terms are exactly the same, I can place them inside one parentheses, and then x squared plus a negative 4, or x squared minus 4 goes on the inside of the parentheses here. Hopefully I haven't gone too fast for you, but this is a way to factor without using expanded form. Now, I do need to point out again, x squared minus 4 is the difference. It's called the difference of squares. Because I know x squared times x times x gives me x squared. And I know a negative 2 times a positive 2 will give me negative 4, but they'll add up to 0. So they're a special difference of squares, if you will. So I'm going to show you that now. We have x plus 2, x minus 2, and then the original x plus 2 in parentheses comes down here. All right, now since we're finding zeros, right, we're finding zeros of the function. As an example, I want to show you how to do that in review, because I've shown it once before with an example problem. I'm going to take each of these and set them equal to 0. Then I solve for x. So to eliminate that 2, again, x plus 2 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. To get rid of that 2 and get x all by itself, it's a one-step equation. I'm going to subtract 2 to both sides. I get x equals a negative 2. To get rid of the negative 2, I'm going to do the inverse. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. That gives me x equals a positive 2. And to get rid of that positive 2, so x is all alone, I'll subtract 2 to both sides of the equal sign. Positive 2 plus a negative 2 is 0. X equals 0 plus a negative 2 is negative 2. So my zeros for this particular expression are negative 2, positive 2, and a value of negative 2. Hey, thank you for joining me. Hopefully this is making math a little bit easier for you. Don't forget to show those invisible ones. Math is easy. Take it step by step. Thank you for joining me. If I've helped you, please help me. You can donate some gifts, and it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.